Greetings everyone, DFG coming to you from the graveyard. Hey guys, I've got some information that I want to share with you today that I guarantee you you're going to find very interesting and very educational. And I want to go as far as to say, I'm going to pride myself into doing, those two things. And I try to always pride myself in doing that. So, and pretty soon, if it's okay with you guys, if you're still listening to me by now, if you're a subscriber, you probably feel like you're a part of my family. And if you don't, trust me when I tell you this, I see you as a part. You may see me a part of your family. I definitely see you as a part of my family, okay? So with that said, let me cut to the chase and get right into what I want to share with you. On yesterday, there was some conversation that I had, and this is important, and so bear with me, guys, especially men and women of color. My white associates, if you consider me a friend, my white friends, you're welcome to listen in, on this conversation. But in relationship to the subject matter, I hope you can glean from it, okay? But this message is really directed, at, again, so-called, people of color, men, male and female. And yesterday I was talking to you about Willie Lynch. And some of you guys may know the Willie Lynch about the Willie Lynch letter. Some of you guys may not. And by the time I'm done with this video, you'll understand why I'm talking about Willie Lynch again for the second day. I promise you, I'm going to connect all the dots and make it make sense. Why I'm spending time talking about Willie Lynch when we could be talking about so many other things. Okay, but Willie Lynch supposedly back in 1712 he supposedly had a small plantation somewhere out in the Caribbean, and he came to America, and he came to plantation owners who had slaves on their plantations, and he had a proposition for them. And this letter the Willie Lynch letter is about that proposition. Now that letter is probably 2 or 3 pages long, and as you know, there's no way I'm going to sit here and read to 3-page letter. Not that I don't want to, and I know you're not going to listen to that. But if you let me read to you just a paragraph of that letter, I would humbly say I appreciate it. Okay? So let me go right on into it. Okay? And it says, "Greetings, gentlemen. I greet you here on the bank of James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, gentlemen, for the colony of Virginia for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with the slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still oldest methods of controlling slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program was implemented there. As our boat sailed south to James River, named for the illustrious king whose version of the Bible we cherish," how interesting that he would say that, "I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood and crosses standing human bodies along its highways in great numbers, you are here using the tree and the rope on occasion. I caught whiff a smell of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple of miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings, slaves are running away, and your crops sometimes are left in the fields too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires, your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce to you a method of solving them." A little bit longer, guys. "In my bag, I have here a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee, they didn't call them Africans, by the way. Your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, his method, if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple, and any member of your family or overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences amongst the slaves." Now, people of color, this is where I want you to listen in very carefully and see if you can relate to what he's about to say here. Okay, get back to it. He says, I've outlined the number of differences among the slaves. I take these differences to make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked for my modest plantation in the West Indies and will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On the top of my list is age. Yes, age. A-G-E. But it's there only because it starts with an A. The second on my list is color, or shades of color. There is an intelligence, a size difference, sex difference, sizes of plantation status on the plantations, attitude of the owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, tall or short. Now that you have a list of these differences, I shall give you an outline of action, but before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust. Let me say that again. Distrust is stronger than trust. And envy is stronger than adulation, respect, and admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this introduction, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pit the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned males against the light-skinned males. You must pit the old males versus the young males. You must use the females against the males against the females. You must also have white servants and overseers who distrust all blacks. You must have whites who distrust all. But you notice he said servants and overseers. In other words, he was talking about middle-class Americans, middle-class whites, everyday whites. You got to get them to distrust the blacks too for his plan to be effective. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend only on us, the white overseer, not the white plantation owner, the elite. They shall trust all blacks, but it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Now, how interesting is that? Now, let me get into the meat and potatoes of this particular message. It may end up two messages because I don't want this to go on too long, and I do have a second message I want to share. But if you notice, he talked in terms of how do I get to control a people. And then in this essence, he's talking about blacks, so-called people of color. All right? He's saying the way to get advantage over them, the way to control them. And I didn't say that right. He said, how do I control blacks? He said, I pit the young men against the old men. I pit the lighter skin versus the darker skin. I pit the ones who have nice hair versus kinky hair. He said, I pit the male against the female and the female against the male. And he said, then what I do is I make sure that they do not trust each other. Because if I can get them not to trust each other, then that's going to be greater than any adulation that they would have or respect towards one another. Now, when you look at some of the socially engineered problems in the so-called black community that we have today, tell me that those things, not only do they not exist, but tell me that they are not effectively destroying the culture of the so-called African American community. They are absolutely destroying it. Black men don't trust black women. Black women don't trust black men. Young black men don't want to hear nothing that older black men have to say for the most part, except for those who may have been, who maybe come from homes where they have fathers in the home, and the father, had the proper discipline and guidance and taught them the importance of respecting, their elders and understanding that you can learn a whole lot from somebody who's lived longer than you. I'm talking about somebody in their right mind. I'm not talking about some fool who happens, some gray-headed old fool. That's not who we're talking about here, male or female, I might add. But most young blacks don't respect older blacks. Most older blacks have no respect for the younger blacks. And therefore, they're fighting. They don't trust each other. And not only that, but if a black person comes to you and tell you, I don't know, I've got this good investment plan that I want you to invest in, and you put your money in it, and we put our money together, we can start our own business. Most blacks, I'm telling you, and my white friends, this is just the truth. Most blacks are going to say, I don't believe him. Oh, hell no. But if a white guy were to come, I'm talking about a white guy who's in the plantation class, okay? I'm talking about the ownership class, a businessman, somebody who they deem is important, some white important man. Even the guy who owns the local Quick Mart down the street come and tell them something. They're going to jump to attention and they're going to respond. Why is that? How is that? I don't know. Maybe it is based off of this socially engineering letter that Willie Lynch, at least it's being said that he wrote. Now, some people say the letter is a hoax. Whether it's a hoax or not, I don't know. I do know that it's very silly for us to think that somebody white could socially engineer us or predict our future for us and determine how we're going to be acting 300 years later. Now, that was 1712, so it meant that we'd be still acting that way right now in 2018. That's only 306 years later. And he said it would last not only 300 years, he said it would last over 1,000 years. Now, whether the letter is right or wrong, you cannot deny what's in the letter is not absolutely going on right now. And that's the scary part, guys, that if we don't get together and we don't start reinvesting in ourselves, reinvesting in our children, if we don't get a better understanding of what it takes to build a culture, what it takes to build a community, and I'm talking about from bottom up and top to the bottom, we are going to find ourselves in a place of extinction. You follow? We've already found our place. I'm not even a second-class citizen. Blacks in America are so-called blacks are really third class now, because now you've got, the Hispanics have now become the second, largest minority group. So now the blacks are the minority group in America. And that's not by coincidence. It's not because so many, Mexicans and Spanish people are coming into America, or Hispanic, let me say that the right way. It is because of, as I told you in a video earlier, in the last, how many years did we talk about? The last 35 years, 260,000 black homicides have been committed by black on blacks in America. 260,000. That's why the numbers, because remember, the numbers are tied into birth rate as well. Because if you're dead, if your son is dead or your daughter is dead, they can't have babies. And remember, most of these black on black crimes happen between the ages of about 15 to about 30, 31. Prime reproductive years. So you're killing yourself, hating yourself, distrusting yourself into extinction. So as Willie Lynch letter has stated, and you can Google this up, Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave is the name of the article. Check it out. You may be surprised to see how much of this stuff is true. Now again, let me qualify what I said. Do I believe that, this strategy was embraced by the aristocrats back in the 1700s? I would tell you that 80% I'd say yes. And the reason I say that because it's too much going on. This is too close to being true to be untrue. All right? And even if it is untrue, guys, wow, what a hell of a message. Okay? So it's something to think about. I'm going to be back in just a moment with another video that I want to share with you today. But until then, love you guys. Thank you for listening. Remember the Willie Lynch letters. What it's simply telling us is that we have to come together as a community. And to my white friends or associates, you're being used as a part of this ploy as well. The elite class, the bourgeois class, they don't care about you either. You know that. But they want us to be your enemy, because as long as you have us as your enemy, you don't have time to pay attention and to see what they're doing to you. Okay? Because they're screwing you too. And when they finish with us, they're coming after you. Just so you know. Okay? Peace. Love you guys. Talk to you in a minute. DFG, subscribe team.